Hi everybody and welcome back. Today I'm starting a new series of videos aimed at complete beginners who want to grow one apple tree or, like me, who are looking to start a new orchard. Now, I used to teach horticulture at agricultural college while I was down in Cornwall. And John and I, obviously, as you've seen from the videos, if you've been subscribing to the channel, we used to have a small scale cider business. So, apples, I'm very familiar with apples. The trouble with being familiar with a subject means sometimes you forget that not everybody else is as into it as you are. They haven't got the same experience. They've maybe never planted an apple or looked after an apple in their life. So I'm going to try and address that in this series of videos and make these videos accessible to everybody. So I'm going to try and aim that at the complete beginner. If you're a more experienced grower, there is still stuff you can learn. I'm getting quite old now and I have been growing apple trees, believe it or not, for the last 52 years. So I've learnt a lot. And there is more than one way to do things. So this first video in the series is going to concentrate on how to grow apple trees. So what I aim to cover is buying apple trees, planting apple trees because it's getting to that kind of time of year, and how to propagate your own apple trees. So some of the video footage that you're going to see in this video, it's been very breezy here and I'm determined to try and get outside and do some filming out in the garden and in other orchards, but I'm really kind of stuck with how the weather is. I'm going to invest in one of these little clip-on microphones with a furry sock cover thing. If you want to maybe donate a couple of pounds towards that, that would really help me right now. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? You're watching the videos, you're obviously enjoying them. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe and it means you're up to date with everything. If you're not ready to plant apple trees yet, save this video, save the channel, and when you're ready, then you've got the information there and then. If you're a school or a community group, you'll be able to learn loads, maybe even get the ball rolling for getting your own community orchard started. There is funding out there. So basically, enjoy the new videos that I'm putting on, and I'm so sorry about the sound quality outdoors, but I am working on it. Very breezy out here in the garden today, but I'm out here for a reason, and thank goodness the rain has finally stopped. So, apart from the fact that it's a lovely view, I'm not here for that. I'm here to have a look at apple trees. So that is the Cox's Orange Pippin that we planted last year, and it's done all right. That is the Golden Delicious, and you can see how that trunk is waving about there. I might have to stake that just to give it a wee bit more stability. But while it's young like that, waving around in the breeze is going to encourage the tree to put out stronger roots. So, what else can I show you? Well, I planted some rootstocks, and if you've been watching the channel, you'll know that I attempted to graft these, and the graft failed. So, I'm not giving up on that. And we're now in September. If I'm here in February, I'm going to graft that again. And similarly,
with that one there.
So I've moved inside because it's just too breezy out there and you won't be able to hear anything, and that'll be really annoying. So if you want to grow one apple tree, maybe you've not got an awful lot of room, or if you want to grow a few, if you've got an average size or slightly bigger garden, or you want to go the whole hog and have a huge big orchards, you need to think about some basic things before you start. And autumn is a fantastic time to start planning your orchard. So have a look at the space that you've got. Apple trees tend to come either bare rooted, and they're available in autumn, or they can come in pots, which, if they've been looked after all right, you can plant at any time of year. What you'll need to look at is the rootstock that the varieties have been grafted onto, because even though you may want a Cox's Orange Pippin or a Discovery, whatever you want, you need to look at the rootstock, because that will govern how big the tree grows and how long it will take to produce fruit. So I put a little bit about rootstocks in this video. Then have a look at what you have ground wise. So as I said, you might just have a large pot, and you will need a substantial sized pot if you're going to grow an apple tree in. So you need to think about hot summers, that's going to dry out. So there's less chance of that if it's in a big pot. And also, if it's in a pot and you're not changing the soil, then you will need to feed that once the tree's established. If you're going to be planting in soil, then you need to have a look at various things, such as, is your soil very wet? Is it very sandy and free draining? Do you get a lot of wind in the area? You know, things like that. So I'll talk more about that later on in the video. So we're going to talk about varieties now. So you've decided how many trees you want that you can cope with in the area of space that you want. The next fun part is deciding which variety. So this depends on a lot of things. It's personal choice, how many apples you want to have, what you're going to do with them, and there's climatic issues as well. So I am at the moment living in West Central Scotland. So it's slightly damp here because we get the beneficial uh, influence of the Gulf Stream. So because the west side of the UK is always more damp and mild than the east side, there are apple varieties that are going to do better here. And on the eastern side of the UK, there are apple varieties that are going to do better there. So you need to do a little bit of research, and there's no better time than autumn, sitting with specialist catalogues and having a look online at the suppliers that are available and making your list of what apple variety you want according to that. So some apple varieties flower earlier and set fruit earlier, so they can be either earlies or mid-season apples. Some tend to flower later and are known as late season apples. Then you've got the whole thing about, do I want an ornamental apple like a crab apple, or do you want eating apples, dessert apples? Do you want cider apples? They're very different, and only you can make that decision because it's quite a personal choice. There are some varieties that are dual purpose. One of my favourites is Orleans Renette, which is a pippin type of apple. It has a slightly rough skin. It's great for juicing. It's a lovely but grown up taste to eat as an eating apple, but it's also good for putting into cider, and you can cook it as well. Some people swear by having Bramleys, although the Bramley variety is susceptible to canker and scab, more predominantly on the western side of the UK. Seems to do much better if you're on the eastern side, but this is why you have to do your research. If you're looking for a fail-safe eating apple that the kids are going to like, then you couldn't do any better than plumping for a Discovery or a Katie apple. So as you can see, there's hundreds of varieties out there, but everyone is a personal taste. In the UK, there are a lot of villages and towns that do apple days in October. This is a fantastic event for you to go and see. You can try lots of different apples and you can talk to people about how they find those varieties of apples do in the locale. Highly recommend you do that. So you've chosen your variety. Well done. It's not easy because there are, in the UK alone, over 325 different varieties. That's one for every day of the year. So it's difficult to make that choice. The next choice you have to make is what rootstock that you want to grow them on. And that will be governed by your climate, the amount of ground you've got, how long you want to wait for apples, etc. Then you have to look at where you're going to buy them. So some good garden centres will have a range of pots with pot grown apples in them. These can be planted any time of year, or you can go for a bare rooted tree. I tend to go for bare rooted ones. Some of these I can buy at good garden centres, some of them I have to order online, but there is a myriad of suppliers out there and you will eventually find what you're looking for. Apple trees that come as bare roots tend to be dispatched either in autumn or in early spring, so you might have a little bit of a wait until you get yours. But this is a good time to get everything else that you need ready, because you don't just need an apple tree. Any young apple tree that you're planting will need a proper stake and some degree of protection against rabbits or deer. If you're living in an area where the deer are prevalent, like here, then we fence off our garden with 6 foot fencing. Now that's a bit extreme. However, if you're living in a suburban area, all you'll need to do is put a rabbit guard on it. So again, there's plenty of information out there. So get everything that you need ready to go. It's growing very well. It needs a wee bit of work today. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you the graft. Now, this is the rootstock, which is MM106, and that is the graft union. Now, I wasn't sure what was happening, but I am pretty convinced that this is right now. It's difficult to tell if this is an actual graft, but I'm going to plant it. I think it is, because I can see the line here. So what I'm going to do, I want this to grow into a standard tree or a half standard tree. It will be a half standard, I think. So I need to take off these side branches here because they're going to get in the way when the tree is bigger, and I don't want to have issues with the lawnmower or the lawn tractor catching the branches. So these are getting removed. Of course, the label would be on that one, wouldn't it? I'll just move you out the way. And I'm taking them off and just leaving a slight collar and that'll just callus over. You don't need to paint anything on these. You're coming off too. And that has left me a nice clean stem. There we go. And that will grow into a nice standard apple. So who remembers this little tub? Well, when I ordered my rootstocks and they arrived and I planted them last year, when I grafted those rootstocks, the excess rootstock material that I removed after I grafted the bottom of the rootstock, I explained that you can grow your own rootstocks from this. So these are the rootstocks that I have grown from those cut off parts. Now, originally put 8 in here and 5 have taken. I'm sure it's 6 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 5. 5 have taken. So I'm just going to show you one that hasn't. So this one failed. And I've just taken it out the tub there, and you can see there's absolutely no roots at all there. So I'm going to take this into the kitchen because I don't think, well, I don't know, I'll try it out here. The weather's very iffy, but watch this space. I've got to take these hopefully rooted cuttings out of here and pot them up individually, because wherever we go to, we are going to need apple rootstocks to be able to propagate a new orchard. So I've moved into the kitchen and I've got everything I need. So I've got the big trough with my hopefully rooted rootstocks. I've got a pot and a trowel, and I've got a sack with some compost in it. So the first thing I'm going to do is gently tease this rootstock up. And I'm trying to be gentle because I do not want to damage the roots, but it's obviously well rooted. Put that down. Just tease that apart. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Right. Oh, better rooted than I thought. So I'll show you this one. So I'm just going to take off the stuff off the top. And you can see there, this is all roots. So I'm just going to show you again. So this is the apple cutting that I took from the rootstock, and that has been in that trough since February. And I have to say, I'm really pleased. That is a really good rootstock. So the idea was, because I haven't got many pots, that I was going to plant all of those rootstocks in here. But I don't know if I am now, because I want to give them a wee bit of room. Now I'm going to show you one that has not taken, and that is this one. So you can see that there's absolutely no growth on that at all. and at the end you can see where it's been cut and there's no roots at all there. So that's a discard. When you're looking at your rootstocks to see which ones have taken or not, if you've done this in February, then you should see new leaves appearing by March or April. So I've just pulled out the biggest one here, and I like to take big, thick, and I'll just move the camera so you can see that because you can't. Hold on. So this was the biggest one. So when I took this, literally thickness of a pencil, but just look at all the roots that has made. I mean, that is a fantastic amount of roots. And I could plant this straight into the ground if I was ready to do that, but I'm not. So when I'm replanting, you can see where the soil level's been. When I put that eventually into the ground in its permanent place, I'll be planting that to there. And then I'll stake it, label it, water it well in, and then I'll give it a slight bit of mulch at the top. But that is pretty amazing. Okay, so because I haven't got enough largish pots, I have actually topped up this tub with new compost and replanted. So there is now 5 really good healthy MM106 rootstocks in there. And that is the start of a new orchard for me, wherever I may end up. So if you're wanting to do this, there will be a video on doing this in February, but I just wanted you to see how cheap it can actually be to grow your own apple trees. Now, these roots... So I hope you found that video useful, and if you're just about to start either planting one apple tree or planting an orchard, I'm sure you'll learn loads. If you want more information, this book has a whole chapter on how to grow apple trees. And if you're looking to do something with your apples once you've planted them, then you want this book, because it will tell you all about juicing and making cider. Of course, apples are such a versatile fruit. I am amazed that more people do not plant them. They're easy to grow. They're virtually one of the easiest plants that you can grow in the garden. They are so rewarding, beautiful most of the year, and of course they'll give you fruit. They also are a haven for wildlife as well. So I could talk about apples all day long, but if I do that, this video is going to be the longest video in the world, and there'll be nothing left for me to talk about at different seasons. So this is the first in the set of videos about how to grow apples and how to grow an orchard. I hope you'll follow me, subscribe to the channel, and every so often I will do a video more about growing apples. I aim to do that at different times of the year when you need to be doing something. So harvest will be the next one. I'm going to do a video about some apple pressing and talk about cider making. And then, of course, we're into the winter and we'll talk about pruning. February, we'll be doing a bit of grafting and we'll see where we go from there. If there's anything you want to ask, please do so in the comments. I'm always interested to hear how you're getting on, what you're doing, and if you need to query anything that I've talked about in the video. But right now, it's time for me to go and make some soup. So I got a spare half hour this afternoon, so I've decided to make some Scotch broth. So in my trusty food processor, I have 1 large onion and 3 substantial carrots. And in the pot, I have some soup mix and 2 stock cubes. So, and some water obviously, about a pint and a half, 2 pints. So I'm just going to bring that to boil, and that will soften the grains. And then I'm going to add my veg, and then I'll give it a good boil up, and then turn that off. And once it's cooled down, I'll add my cooked chicken, which has been picked clean off the carcass that we had at the weekend. When we've had a cooked chicken, and that'll usually last us 2 meals, so we do 2 breasts and 2 legs. I pick the carcass clean of all the meat, and I stick it inside a tiny freezer bag and freeze it, so that whenever I'm making soup, it's ready to go. So save yourself some money, folks. Make that chicken go further and enjoy some hearty soup this autumn and winter.
Nice bread. Chicken soup. Dogs are all waiting.
Yes, we do apologise for the sound effects, but the soup does tend to go down very well with them, but they're not allowed it because it's got onion in it.
Yeah, so chicken soup. Best yet.